from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone...
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years.
That's why you're a failing mayor.
Which is
Mayor
the same
Adams,
number that was sent from us
How much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you. You don't have a hard number. And if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76, your beacon of truth in these turbulent times. Today, we're diving deep into explosive congressional testimony that exposes the absolute disaster that was the Biden-Harris border catastrophe. And folks, what you're about to hear will make your blood boil. We're talking about elected officials who turned their backs on American citizens while rolling out the red carpet for illegal aliens, all while spending your hard-earned tax dollars like drunken sailors. Before we get into this bombshell testimony, I need every single patriot watching to hit that subscribe button right now. We're fighting an information war, and Signal 76 is on the front lines delivering the truth they don't want you to hear. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and stick around until the very end because I got some analysis that will absolutely blow your mind about what this means for America's future. This congressional hearing footage reveals the systematic destruction of our border security under the Biden administration and the mind-boggling amounts of taxpayer money being funneled to support illegal immigration while American citizens suffer.
Arnold's from Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. This is my third term on the Oversight Committee. We've been talking about illegal immigration and oversight the entire time. I remember we had a group of this committee that went down to the El Paso section of the border. This was back in February, March of 2021. And during that time period, we were at one of the holding centers, and there were these buses that were coming to the detention facility, and they were picking up 30 kids, 50 kids at random, walking out of the facility. And when I went over to question the bus driver that was transporting these kids, border agents told me, as a member of Congress, that you're not allowed to question the bus driver. And of course, people knowing me, I didn't take no for an answer, and I repeated the question. And I was told that this bus of children was leaving El Paso and going to San Diego. And so what was occurring under the Biden administration is that they were busing unaccompanied minors all across the United States for one reason and one reason only. And that was because they did not want the press to see the pictures of kids in cages. They did not want to see our borders being overrun. They wanted to disperse that problem all through the United States. That is the reckless history of illegal immigration under Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Mayor Johnston of Denver, yes, you lamented earlier that there were 10 to 11 buses coming per day to your city. Did you ever talk to Joe Biden about why this was happening to your community?
Thank you, Congressman. I both reached out to Governor Abbott from Texas. He didn't respond, and I did.
Why would you reach out to Governor Abbott of Texas when it is Joe Biden, the former commander-in-chief, that opened up our borders? Why didn't you talk to him?
Well, our buses directly were being sent from Governor Abbott in Texas, so that was why we reached out to say we're happy to collaborate on a coordinated entry system. We understand no one state or no one city should bear the entire brunt of this, but let's collaborate. But I did.
So I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next point. Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis, when they started moving illegal aliens out of their states who were bearing the brunt of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing, and they've sent them to Denver, they sent them to Chicago, they sent them to New York, they sent them to Martha's Vineyard. The reason why they did that is because you four could hide behind the realities of illegal immigration on border towns all through our country and on cities and states who did not want to see illegal immigration, but did not have the political representation to go to the White House. And only when it showed up on your doorstep did you get upset. Mayor Johnston, coming back to you, how much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around $79 million since 2022.
$79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone...
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years.
That's why you're a failing mayor.
Which is
Mayor
the same
Adams,
number that was sent from us.
How much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you, you don't have a hard number. And if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well. Mayor Adams, how much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration?
$6.9 billion of taxpayers' dollars.
$6.9 billion of taxpayer money on a problem that was fostered on the American people. Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
services,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city
number.
of Boston has spent on illegal immigration?
We
Are you
don't
out of your
distinguish
mind?
between immigration status.
Do you
as
manage
part
your
of our
budget
city
or not,
policies.
Mayor Wu?
That is how we keep
Mayor
our city
Wu,
safe.
do you manage your budget or
We have the
not?
numbers to prove it. I manage my budget. I have a AAA bond rating dating back 10 years.
So
for
to the city of Boston,
budget.
just understand that your mayor does not care how much of your resources she has spent on people who are not citizens
The city of Boston
the city of
is
Boston.
sick of having
I'm reclaiming
people
my
outside
time.
Boston
Mr.
telling
Bear,
us what
Mr.
we
Bear, I have a
need.
question for you because I understand Cato's perspective when it comes to illegal immigration. I understand that the Cato Institute for a long time has had a standard of actually having open immigration into the United States. Generally speaking, I don't want to get into specifics.
We support legal immigration. We want immigration to be legal.
Let me ask you this question, because one of the great libertarians of the modern era, Milton Friedman, famously said, you can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you have to choose. Mr. Beer, what do you choose?
Milton Friedman said he wanted to allow illegal immigration to continue. I disagree with Milton Friedman's position on that. We should have legal immigration and build a wall around the welfare state, not around the country. That's in the best interest of taxpayers.
And I would argue that under the current system where you have sanctuary cities popping up, it is not possible to build that wall. So America
can.
has to
Absolutely you
choose,
can.
Mr. Beer, you're done. America has to choose between securing our nation or protecting the taxpayer. I choose secure the nation. I yield back.
Gentlemen,
What we witnessed here isn't just policy failure. It's a deliberate betrayal of the American people, and every patriot needs to understand exactly what happened. Let's start with this Florida congressman's testimony about his visit to El Paso in early 2021. Picture the scene, patriots. A sitting member of Congress visits a border detention facility and witnesses buses pulling up to randomly collect 30, 40, 50 unaccompanied minors at a time. When this congressman tries to do his job and question the bus driver about where these children are being transported, border agents tell him he's not allowed to ask questions. Think about that for a moment. A United States congressman being told he can't ask questions about the transportation of unaccompanied minors on American soil. But here's where it gets even more outrageous. These buses weren't just moving children around locally. They were transporting them from El Paso all the way to San Diego, clear across the country. The congressman nailed it when he explained exactly why this was happening. The Biden administration didn't want the American people seeing images of kids in cages. They didn't want us witnessing our borders being completely overrun. So their solution wasn't to secure the border, it was to disperse the problem across the entire United States, making it everyone else's problem while pretending everything was under control. This is the kind of deceptive, manipulative governance that patriots have been warning about for years. Instead of addressing the root cause of the crisis, which was their own reckless open border policies, they chose to hide the evidence and spread the chaos throughout our communities. They turned every American city into a potential dumping ground for the consequences of their failed leadership. Now let's talk about these mayors, because their testimony reveals just how disconnected and incompetent these liberal leaders really are. Denver's mayor complained about receiving 10 to 11 buses per day. But here's the kicker. Instead of calling President Biden, the man whose policies created this entire mess, he reached out to Governor Abbott of Texas. Think about the backwards logic here, patriots. The Biden administration creates a border crisis. Texas bears the brunt of it. Governor Abbott finally says enough is enough and starts sending these illegal aliens to sanctuary cities that voted for these policies, and the Denver mayor wants to complain to Abbott instead of Biden. This perfectly illustrates the liberal mindset. They want a virtue signal about being sanctuary cities and supporting open borders. But the moment they have to deal with the actual consequences of these policies, they start pointing fingers at Republican governors who are simply sharing the burden that was unfairly placed on border states. Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis deserve tremendous credit for their brilliant strategy of sending these illegal aliens to the very cities that supported the policies causing the crisis. For years, border towns and border states carried this burden alone, while liberal elites in places like Martha's Vineyard, Chicago, New York, and Denver pontificated about compassion and inclusion from their ivory towers. These Republican governors forced these sanctuary cities to confront the reality of their own policies, and suddenly these liberal mayors started singing a very different tune. The spending numbers these mayors revealed are absolutely staggering and should infuriate every American taxpayer. Denver has spent $79 million since 2022 on what they euphemistically call newcomers. Chicago's mayor couldn't even provide a straight answer about spending, claiming it was just 1% of their budget, but refusing to give actual numbers. When pressed by the congressman, this mayor demonstrated the kind of fiscal irresponsibility that's destroying our cities. You're the mayor of one of America's largest cities, and you don't know how much taxpayer money you've spent on illegal immigration? That's either gross incompetence or deliberate deception. But New York takes the cake with a mind-blowing $6.9 billion spent on illegal immigration. Let that sink in, patriots. Nearly $7 billion of taxpayer money spent on people who entered our country illegally while American veterans sleep on the streets, while American families struggle with inflation, while American children attend underfunded schools. This is the perverted priority system of the modern Democratic Party. Boston's mayor might have been the most infuriating of all. When asked about spending on illegal immigration, she claimed they don't ask about immigration status and therefore don't track these costs. This is willful ignorance at its worst. She's managing a major American city's budget, but claims she doesn't know how much money is being spent on illegal aliens because they don't ask about immigration status. The congressman was absolutely right to call out her mismanagement. How can you responsibly manage taxpayer resources when you refuse to even acknowledge who you're spending money on? This entire hearing exposed the fundamental dishonesty of the sanctuary city movement. These liberal mayors want a virtue signal about compassion and inclusion, but they don't want to be held accountable for the costs and consequences. They want to feel good about their progressive policies while passing the bill to taxpayers and pretending they don't know where the money is going. The exchange about Milton Friedman's famous observation was particularly revealing. Friedman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, understood that you cannot simultaneously have open borders and a welfare state. It's economically impossible and socially destructive. You have to choose one or the other. The congressman was absolutely correct to force this choice into the open because it gets to the heart of what's wrong with current immigration policy. The representative from the Cato Institute tried to dance around this fundamental contradiction, claiming we should build a wall around the welfare state instead of the country. But that's naive idealism that ignores political reality. Under our current system, with sanctuary cities actively protecting illegal aliens and providing them with taxpayer-funded services, it's impossible to separate immigration from welfare benefits. The sanctuary cities make that separation impossible by design. This is why the congressman's conclusion was so powerful. America has to choose between securing our nation and protecting our taxpayers, and he chose to secure the nation. That's the choice every patriot should make, and it's the choice that will be front and center in future elections. What this hearing really demonstrated is the complete failure of Biden-Harris immigration policy and the desperate attempts by liberal mayors to avoid accountability for supporting those failed policies. They wanted open borders until the buses started arriving in their cities. They wanted to be sanctuary cities until they had to spend their own taxpayer money. They wanted a virtue signal about compassion until they actually had to deal with the consequences of mass illegal immigration. The transportation of unaccompanied minors across the country without proper oversight or transparency should concern every American parent. We have no idea where these children ended up, who they were placed with, or what happened to them. The Biden administration prioritized political optics over child safety, and that's unconscionable. The fiscal impact on American cities is staggering and unsustainable. When you add up the spending from just these few cities, we're talking about over $8 billion, and that's just a fraction of the total national cost. Multiply this across hundreds of communities dealing with illegal immigration, and you're looking at tens of billions of taxpayer dollars being diverted from American priorities to support people who shouldn't be here in the first place. The lack of coordination and planning revealed in this testimony shows how completely unprepared the Biden administration was for the crisis they created. They opened the borders without any plan for housing, processing, or supporting the massive influx of people they were encouraging to come. They left border states to deal with the immediate crisis while spreading the long-term costs throughout the country without consulting with local communities. This is governance by crisis and political manipulation rather than responsible leadership. Instead of securing the border first and then working on comprehensive immigration reform, they created chaos and then blamed everyone else for the consequences. The courage shown by Republican governors like Abbott and DeSantis in forcing sanctuary cities to confront reality was brilliant political strategy and necessary governance. For too long, the costs and consequences of failed immigration policy were borne primarily by border states and communities, while the politicians supporting these policies faced no direct consequences. By sharing that burden with sanctuary cities, these governors forced an honest conversation about the real costs of mass illegal immigration. Patriots, this hearing footage represents everything that's wrong with how our government has been operating. Unaccountable spending of taxpayer money, refusal to secure our borders, prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens, and complete lack of transparency about the scope and cost of these failed policies. But it also shows why elections matter and why we need strong conservative leadership at every level of government. The congressmen asking these tough questions, the Republican governors taking action to protect their states. These are the kind of leaders we need more of. Every American watching this needs to understand that this isn't just about immigration policy. It's about whether we're going to have a country that prioritizes its own citizens or one that becomes a global welfare magnet. It's about whether we're going to have leaders who are accountable to taxpayers or ones who hide behind bureaucracy and virtue signaling. The choice Milton Friedman identified decades ago is the choice we face today. We can have a secure nation with controlled, legal immigration that serves American interests, or we can have open borders with unlimited welfare benefits that bankrupt our communities and destroy our social cohesion. We cannot have both, and it's time for every American to decide which future they want. This congressional testimony should be required viewing for every voter because it exposes the real consequences of electing leaders who prioritize progressive ideology over practical governance. When mayors don't know how much taxpayer money they're spending on illegal aliens, when congressmen are prevented from asking basic questions about child transportation, when billions of dollars are being spent without proper oversight or accountability, we have a system that has completely lost its way. Patriots, the 2024 election gave us a clear mandate to restore sanity to our immigration system and accountability to our government. This testimony shows exactly why that mandate was necessary and why we must remain vigilant in holding our elected officials accountable for every tax dollar they spend and every policy they implement. The defense of our borders isn't just about immigration. It's about the survival of our republic. When you have unlimited immigration combined with unlimited welfare benefits, you have a recipe for fiscal disaster and social collapse. The mayors in this hearing are living proof of that reality, even if they refuse to acknowledge it. Make sure to share this video with every patriot you know, because this information needs to reach every American voter. The mainstream media won't give you this kind of analysis, which is why independent voices like Signal 76 are so crucial in the fight for our country's future.